So hello, I'm talking about the R exporter. I think it's fairly straightforward application using aspect J with Anylogic. So the motivations of creating these little plug-in because we're lazy. We're hate of trying to write any Java code and trying to export that every time and then just do it automatically. But to be serious about this, behind this we have several reasons. It is because like using Java to perform the scientific computing and to do some post-processing of the data sets is a pretty painful to write because it's everybody can imagine how hard it is to write a Java code to executing a matrix times a matrix multiplication, and it's also slow to execute because you have to unboxing about the different types, and it's easy to be incorrect. So, for example, if you wanted to implementing a method called permute a set of integers, it is really hard to implement it statistically correct unless you know something called Fisher-Yates shuffle. And so there are some like traps if you're trying to implementing some simple statistic method. But R is a domain-specific language. It's easy to write and it's automatically optimized, and it's less to worry about those tricky parts of the numerical computing or statistic method implementation. And these software packages downloadable via this URL, and then we just move to the demonstration. So this is a remote desktop I've been connected on a Windows machine. Although this software should work fine on both Linux operating system, Windows, Mac OS, across Anylogic 6 and 7. So if there is any unexpected issue happens, just let me know. But it should work. So what we do is for a normal Anylogic model, we need to do a few modifications to make these aspect J plugin work. The first thing is we go to this model and go to the dependency. We have to add the classes, which is the compiled aspects classes. Add the folder into this dependencies, and then you go to one of your or the simulation you want it to be recorded or have the data automatically exported. You go to the simulation configuration and you go to the advanced, and within the Java machine arguments you add this string. Don't worry, these kind of things are all well documented in the manual. So then we will open R and we will install a library required for these plugins called SB-socket, because these plugin is working via a it is sending its sorry, I didn't copy that. It is sending its command via a socket server. So it's basically how it works. So we will install this library. Just choose whatever repository you want.
And that is to be done once.
Yeah, this is only have to be done once because this I intentionally choose the machine without this library installed. But once you install it once, you don't have to do it. But what you need to do is that you need to call the library just as a normal R user know. It's standard, and then you just copy this command. You have to start a socket server. Currently, it is on a specific port number, and then once you see it, the server is started, then everything is fine. And all you need to do is just to run your model. shrink this model a little bit smaller so you can see what happens in the console. When you start this model, the Anylogic aspect J, our exporter would reporting to you which dataset it has already been captured, and then we increasing the simulation speed until the simulation finishes, and once we click the terminate execution, our exporter will just report to you that the data object has already been updated to R, and then we go to R, we check about it. The data sets are just in there, and for example, for the data, I mean, there initially is a list. It contains several attributes within, as well as a matrix within it. So when it is exported to R, it is transferred into the R-specific data type, which is called a list, and the list has different attributes like count and min, max, and you have your data or the matrix you want also within an attribute called being list. But for a simple data type in Anylogic, which is called, for example, the infectious DS, they're just a purely DSS, and then it's just being exported as a table. It will having the values being existing there, and then you can simply do whatever matrix computation you want on that. If you have any troubles to install, or there any other trouble happens that you cannot open the socket server, or you're not allowed to install any specific things on your computer, these data exporters should still work. You just have to, all you need to do is just do the data updating manually. So let's see if we start another R and we close the previous R, so the socket server was closed. Although it's not a correct way to close it, you have to type a stop socket server. It's also documented. So if you haven't started a socket server, you can also do a manual update. So when you're executing this model, it will pop up a warning saying like, I haven't detected any R console the automatic update feature is just disabled, and also have the instructions of what you should do to actually import the data into it. Oh, by the way, now we can have a brief look at what does the data set looks like. So the exported data should be exactly the same as what you can see in the Anylogic model. So basically, you get what you can see. So this is what we just checked about. It has different attributes and also have a matrix indicating the PDF, the CDF, and so we will speed up, and then it says also give another notification of how to do that. So what we're going to do is we look at that this is an exported folder which contains all the exported data sets. Also, they've been stored in as CSV files, and if you're interested to using that with MATLAB or doing any archives, you are also welcome to do that. So now what you need to do is just to drag it here and execute it, and then it's there. So yeah, it's done. If there is any bug issues, please let me know.